Dr. Kalam's elder brother.
Yeah.
Now, why was he given, or why was he asked to write the foreword, leaving behind all the other people who could have made
Yeah.
an
No.
impact, maybe a kind of a commercial or some
Yeah,
kind
there
of
would have
impact
been
in the book?
other people
Yeah.
could have written the forward.
Yeah.
Anybody would have agreed to write a forward
Yeah.
about Dr. Kalam, including the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So, I had chosen particularly Mr. His brother, who is, mashallah, alive. He is 102 years old now. And for Dr. Kalam, he was like a father figure. And Dr. Kalam, because he had lost his father, and after since then, Dr. Kalam used to tell me that I always look towards my elder brother as my father. He was always living in Rameshwaram. He still lives in Rameshwaram in his native place and in his family home. So, and Dr. Kalam really loved him. And as he has written in forward, his elder brother, that Kalam never took any decision of his life except one, when he decided to, when Allah took him away. So this is what his brother has written in my forward. And actually this forward was written by him in Tamil. He does not know English that much. So that I got translated. It was translated by his grandson into English. And he told him all this, whatever has been written in forward, which is very, very emotional, that Kalam never took any decision in his lifetime except when he decided to go from this world and leave me alone here. So that's why I knew the emotional bond between Dr. Kalam and his elder brother. And if you go, you have already gone through in detail this book a number of times you've read. In my last meeting with Dr. Kalam, that was about 40 minutes meeting with him one-on-one on 24 July 2015, just 3 days before his passing away. He passed away on 27. I met him at 3:30 p.m. on 24 July, and he told me that you will have to come to Rameshwaram next year because I will celebrate 100 years of my brother in Rameshwaram in a big way, and I will collect all my friends and relatives and everybody in Rameshwaram, and you will have to come. That was on 24th July. And he said next year when the birthday comes, his birthday was also sometimes in his brother's birthday, and sometimes in May. So I told him, sir, yes, definitely I will come. He never knew that he will not be able to celebrate, that he was, in any case, his life was coming to an end just after 3 days. So he was so excited. I could still remember when he was telling me, I will do this, I will do that, my brother is like this, and we will have a whole day celebration. Though he was not much for celebrations himself, he never celebrated his own birthday. But he wanted to celebrate birthday, 100 years of his brother, which Allah had another scheme of things. So he was very emotional that day about his brother, and he passed away 3 days. But I went to that, then 100 years took place, because his family then decided, because that was Dr. Kalam's last wish, that his 100 years should be celebrated in a big way in Rameshwaram. So as I had promised Dr. Kalam, though Dr. Kalam passed away, but I went to those 100 years, that centenary celebrations of his brother in Rameshwaram in May 2016. And there were celebrations and all that, and a lot of tributes to Dr. Kalam and his brother. So that was the bondage between him and his brother.
But there's just another important question that most of us have no answers for. Why did he never marry?
Why did he never marry?
Because
Actually,
he was
actually,
such a-
number of his students used to ask him that why you did not marry. That was the most popular question
Yes.
of students to Dr. Kalam. But he was he used to give very short reply. He did not get time. So he always used to say, I did not get time to marry. What was the other things? Even I don't know.
Okay.
Because I know only what he used to say. That I did not have time. And one very interesting anecdote which I have written in this book also, once he was addressing about 5,000 students in Sriharikota after the launch of one PSLV, because he used to go as President of India to watch all this ISRO was doing in Sriharikota for launching satellite, because he himself was the father of satellite space program in India, and the first satellite was indigenously built by him and launched from Sriharikota in 1980, because earlier we used to have our satellite launched from Russia or France. So in Sriharikota, his students ask about the population problem. That sir, India is a very high population and all that. What is your view about it? So he first said very jokingly, look, I have not contributed to it. Publicly he said from the stage that I have not contributed to it, I am not responsible, but still I will give you my views and solutions.
Now, his brother writes here in the foreword that I also appreciate that he chose to, about you, that Mr. Khan chooses to write about another dimension of my brother's life.
Yeah,
What was
because
he expecting from you?
yeah, he was expecting because I have a chapter like Kalam as a humanist.
Yes.
I have a chapter is interaction with the students. So various facets of his life and various kinds of activity which he used to have. So his brother was very happy that you are highlighting all this, because and Kalam is a courageous person and all that, because everybody he was saying used to write him scientific contributions.
Yeah.
He was a man of science, what he did in space, what he did in missiles, what he did in atomic power, because he was a scientist who worked in all these three fields. He was a space person, he was a missile person, he was known as Missile Man of India, and all these Agni, Prithvi, Trishul, Nag, which are the missile power of our country, they were all designed and developed by Dr. Kalam. So he was known as father of missile program of India, Missile Man. Generally he was known as Missile Man. So he was a space scientist, Missile Man. Then when in 1998, Pokhran we tested the atomic bomb for the first time, he was there for about 3 months, he lived there, he worked for that, and he used to adore the uniform of a major in the Indian Army.
That's there in the photographs also.
Yeah, there is a
Yes.
photograph also, because there you could not show your identity that he was a scientist. So he was also considered to be very, his contribution in the atomic program of India. So he was such an outstanding scientist that generally scientists are confined to one field of work or one field of study, either you are a space or aero or something else, or an atomic scientist or or a microbiologist or a biotechnologist. But he did number of things, and I will tell you one more thing, very interesting thing, that he was simply an engineering undergraduate. He did his only B.Tech, nothing else. And whatever doctorates he got, they were all honorary doctorates. He got doctorates from about 50, 60 universities all over the world, but he himself was only B.Tech. B.Tech in aerospace engineering. So generally we say, oh, suppose if you are B.Tech, you have not done anything else, then what you will do in your life just by doing B.Tech. So anybody who is B.Tech or going to be only B.Tech, don't get discouraged. You can become anything. It does not depend on degrees and only on formal education.
This one, there's one nice, this good question that's coming to my mind right now is that when we were having a discussion in office regarding when I asked you about your experience with Dr. Kalam, and you narrated a story of how he was how he was offered the post of President of India, and it would be very nice if you could narrate
President
it.
of India first time.
The first time
When he
was
became
asked and
President
what
of
was
India.
he doing,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
story is very.
That story is very interesting. Actually,
interesting.
he was not in the race of presidentship. He was not lobbying. Generally, these posts are people get after a lot of lobbying. Not only president, Even for MLA, you have to do a lot of lobbying. For MP, for minister, for governor, for CM. CM का तो आप देख ही रहे हैं lobbying. Whatever is happening in Maharashtra for the last 15 days. So, Kalam Saab was a scientist. Basically, he was scientific advisor to Government of India. First, he was scientific advisor to the Defense Ministry. Then, he was scientific advisor to Government of India. Normally, a government servant retires at the age of 60, and a scientist retire at the age of 65. Outstanding scientists, because there are different rules in government for accomplished scientists. But government was not allowing him to go. He wanted to go after 65 years. He said, I have done enough. Now I will go for my first love, that is teaching. So he was always a great respect and regard for teachers.
Teachers,
And
yes.
he said, I always wanted to become a teacher, but I have become a scientist, but now I want to teach. So he wanted to go for teaching, but government was giving him extensions after extensions, forcibly. Generally, people try for extension also, but he was so lucky that government forcing him to extend his service. Finally, he said, "No, I don't want to continue, and you please allow me to go." So he had chosen Chennai. He said he would go to Chennai because that was his first love, particularly because he came from Tamil Nadu. So Anna University, which is one of the good universities of the country, they created a chair in his honor, and he had gone there as Professor Emeritus in Anna University, and he was teaching his students. So when this moment of becoming president came, he was taking a lecture. He was giving a lecture in Anna University, and he used to stay in Anna University guest house. Because another unique thing about Dr. Kalam is that throughout his life he did not have his house. He always stayed in guest houses throughout his life. When he was in DRDO, he used to stay in DRDO guest house. When he was in ISRO, he used to stay in ISRO guest house. When he was,
He never got married.
he never got married also, and many unmarried people also, they have their own big houses and all the paraphernalia. And he did not own anything in this world. Another unique thing. He did not own a scooter or a car or a fridge or a television or a car or a property or house or bungalow or anything or any jewelry. He simply had some 6, 7 suits and shirts and some 2 or 3 shoes and a watch and 2, 3 pens. That was all his, and number of books. That was his personal belongings. So he was giving a lecture. Then this thing came up in government that he should become a president candidate. So Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji was prime minister at that time. So Atal ji used to respect him quite a lot, because before that he was scientific advisor to the prime minister. And when Atal ji became prime minister, Atal ji asked Dr. Kalam to join his cabinet as a minister in charge of science and technology. He was scientific advisor in the rank of a cabinet minister. So the Dr. Kalam was scientific advisor in the rank of a cabinet minister. But Atal ji, when became prime minister, he asked him to join his cabinet as a science and technology minister, which Dr. Kalam refused. He said that I want to do science and research and I don't want to become a minister. So then Atalji said, okay. So then he decided to go back to teaching. Atalji remained the prime minister. So all these thinking, so Atalji rang up, prime minister's office rang up the vice chancellor of Anna University. He want to talk to Dr. Kalam. Prime minister wants to talk to Dr. Kalam. So Dr. Kalam was taking a lecture, so VC sent a slip to him that Prime Minister wants to talk to you, please come to my office. वो mobiles तो कलाम साहब के पास मोबाइल था नहीं उस टाइम पर, तो this was 2002, मोबाइल इतना common भी नहीं हुआ. So Dr. Kalam said, okay, let me finish my lecture, I will come. So Dr. Kalam came to VC's office, Anna University, Chennai. And then VC office got connected to Prime Minister's office, and he said, Dr. Kalam is here, Vajpayee ji can come online and talk to him. So Dr. Kalam thought that it is something about something related to a space or something else, or Dr. Vajpayee ji wants some advice, or Vajpayee ji wants him to come to Delhi for some advice, or something. He did not have presidency in his mind at all. So then Vajpayee ji broke this news to him that we all want you to become President of India. So there was a big surprise to him, and he said it is a consensus of all political parties except the Communist Party. Congress is also agreeing, we are BJP, we are agreeing, everybody is agreeing. And now you don't say no. And we expect to listen yes from you. He said, give me 2 hours. I have to discuss with my friends and my brother. There also he said to Prime Minister that I have to discuss with my brother and with my friends. क्योंकि यही family थी उनकी, brother and a few friends, scientist friends. So then he discussed, then Vajpayee ji again rang up after 2 hours and he had agreed. And the rest is history.
Alright, in chapter 9, you talk about 2004 Lok Sabha election and the political aftermath. Can you tell us something about that?
2004.
2004 Lok Sabha election.
Yeah. In 2004 what happened was that actually at that time Vajpayee ji was Prime Minister. NDA government was there. That was the NDA 1 government which came into power in 98, and 2004 elections were due, but Vajpayee ji decided to have elections 8 months before the end of the term. 8 months
8 months.
before. Because at that time BJP was very confident that they will come back with absolute majority. And they were having India Rising, India Shining campaigns, and Pramod Mahajan ji was there, and he was spearheading all those campaigns, and Pramod Mahajan ji advised Vajpayee ji that you go for preponing of elections and dissolve Lok Sabha, get Lok Sabha dissolved and have elections early. So generally elections are held after 5 years, but there at that time it happened 8 months before. So Vajpayee ji came to Kalam Sahab that you dissolve the Lok Sabha. Kalam Sahab had reservation. He said, why you are going for early elections? He said, no, we are very confident we will come back with absolute majority, and I don't want that coalition government. There are so many problems. Everybody is having his own and her own say. Jayalalitha was troubling him at that time. Mamata Banerjee was troubling because they all were coalition partners of BJP at that time. And BJP had, I think, 168 or something seats, but hadn't the government. So Kalam Sahab advised, but he insisted, then Kalam Sahab also agreed. So then 2004 elections took place. But the results were different. And BJP and Congress became the single largest party with 156 seats, not very large number of seats, 156. And BJP became number 2, just 4 seats short of Congress, 152. But suddenly what happened, the other parties, particularly Communist Party, got large number of seats at that time. That was the only election 2004 where the combined Communist parties got 62 seats. They have never in the history of India have got so many seats in parliament, which they got in 2004. So they immediately announced support for Congress and some other parties, so it means the Congress was having the majority. So then the government had to be formed. Then Sonia ji became leader of the Congress parliamentary party. Then all other parties also said that we are giving support to Sonia ji. Sonia ji can become Prime Minister and being the leader of the largest political party, and we all are supporting her for the Prime Minister. But Sonia ji was not coming with any claim to form government, and Dr. Kalam was in dilemma. He used to discuss with me and other officers, okay, what should we do? Because Sonia ji is not taking a claim to form the government, even though now she commands majority in Lok Sabha. So then we advised that you write a letter to Sonia ji. So he wrote a letter to Sonia ji that why you are not coming to stake a claim to form the government, because that way 7 days passed by. मतलब 7 दिन तक सोनिया जी का कोई लेटर नहीं आया कि मैं गवर्नमेंट बनाने को